Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Diamond. Sorry, let me start over with a mic. Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Diamond. I'm the digital media coordinator for the Town of Perinton, and I am here to help support the technology and the moderation of this meeting. Before we begin tonight's presentation, I'd like to explain how we'll handle participation, questions, and comments during this public information session. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide accurate, clear information about the town-wide revaluation, why it's happening, how the process works, the timeline, and what residents can expect in the coming months. We know this topic can generate strong opinions, and your engagement is important to us. At the end of the presentation, we will open the floor for questions and comments. To ensure that everyone has an opportunity to participate, we will begin with in-person questions and comments here in the room, and then move to the participants joining us on Zoom. Additionally, this public information session is being recorded, and it will be available on the town's YouTube page if you'd like to review it. We do ask that everybody, whether attending in person or virtually, to follow a few basic expectations so that we can have a productive and respectful session. Please be respectful of others. Personal attacks or disruptive behavior won't be permitted. Please stay on topic and keep comments focused on the revaluation process itself. Please allow others their turn and avoid interrupting speakers, staff, or other participants. Please be mindful of time so that as many people can be heard as possible. Our goal is to listen, answer questions to the best of our ability, and make sure everyone has a fair and orderly opportunity to participate. We appreciate your cooperation and your presence here tonight. With that, I'd like to introduce our town supervisor, Jen Townsend.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. We had no idea how many people to expect, obviously, so I appreciate that you guys came out to chat with us and ask us questions. I think there's a lot of really great information that we have to share with you tonight. I also want folks to know that if you haven't received your quarterly where there's more information, we have copies here available for you if you have them, or if you don't have one and you want to get one. Joining us tonight, we have Councilperson Emily Mishler, over snapping photos. She's here with us tonight. We also have Jeremy Nardone from Fairport School District here to ask some questions as well, or to answer some questions. And we hope that this is an engaging experience for you guys. I hope that you're able to get your questions answered. I'm going to keep this short and let Wayne Pickering, our assessor, get right to it so that we can get into the question and answer part of it. But I will also obviously be here to jump in and answer questions as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our assessor, Wayne Pickering, to give you his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. As Supervisor Townsend just said, my name is Wayne Pickering. I'm the town assessor. I've been with Perinton since December of 2018. Prior to coming to Perinton, I started out my career as the part-time assessment clerk in the town of Perinton in the early 1980s. I became assistant to the assessor full-time in the town of Perinton in 1986. I became the full-time assessor for the town of Mendon in 1989. And then in 2005, I moved to being the assessor for the town of Victor in 2005. So I'm a little bit over 40 years in doing this profession. I like the profession. It's most people are very, very nice, but just like all of us have experienced, there always are those few. I would like to acknowledge my staff in the assessment office. I have 2 full-time assessment clerks, a full-time staff appraiser, 2 part-time staff appraisers, and I also hired through last year and this year some temporary help for field work and some informal reviews, which will be coming up in March. I'd also like to thank Monroe County Real Property Tax Service who provides computer processing and support for me, and also the New York State Office of Real Property Tax Service, which is a division of the Department of Taxation and Finance. Also, we are doing the residential and vacant properties in-house, and the commercial and industrial properties, the town hired an outside firm, KLW Municipalities, out of Buffalo. And probably shouldn't say this, but we are going to be looking to hire a full-time staff appraiser by the end, probably by mid-year, to replace pre-advertising, to replace staff appraiser who is retiring. So if anybody's interested. So, all right, go. And it doesn't go. You broke it. All right, so introductions are already done. And there's that. That already going to work. All right. So there's a presentation tonight. There's about 8 topics we'll be going over. I'll be taking questions at the end. Hopefully, I'll make it as clear and as I possibly can. So this year, for the 2026 townwide revaluation, we are planning on doing a townwide reval. And currently the town is at 57% equalization rate, which means that the town assessments are reflecting about 57% of what the properties are selling for. Now, the equalization rate is townwide, so it covers all properties, vacant residential, farms, industrial, commercial. One class might be different than the other, but they will only do one equalization rate at 57%. So I got a little video here that was prepared by Scott. That's two people I forgot to thank was Heather and Scott for putting all this presentation and the web, or not the web, but social media. Since I'm not on social media, I depend on them to help. So.
The Town of Perinton has begun a town-wide property revaluation, a process started last year to update property assessments so they reflect today's real estate market. Perinton's last revaluation was completed in 2018, with the next update originally planned for 2020. That effort was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As the housing market continued to change, the town resumed work on a new revaluation in August 2025. Revaluation isn't something anyone looks forward to, but it ensures assessments are accurate, consistent, and aligned with current market conditions. Before we get started, here are a few common terms you'll hear during the revaluation process. Assessment. Assessment is the estimate of what your property is worth based on the real estate market. This value is used in comparison to other properties, so taxes can be distributed proportionally. Tax levy. The tax levy is the total amount of money a taxing authority needs to collect to fund its budget. A revaluation does not change the size of the tax levy. Revaluation. Revaluation updates all property assessments at the same time to reflect current market conditions. Since our last revaluation in 2018, property values in Perinton have changed dramatically and unevenly. Some homes have doubled in value, while others have increased by less. When assessments no longer reflect the real market, some property owners may pay more than their fair share, while others pay less. Revaluation helps restore balance by bringing all assessments up to date. Revaluation does not increase the total amount of taxes the town collects. Think of the tax levy as a pie. The size of the pie is determined by budgets adopted by the town, village, schools, county, and other taxing entities, not by the assessor. Revaluation simply redistributes the pie based on current market values. Most property owners will see their assessed value go up because the market has gone up. But an increase in assessment does not automatically mean you'll pay more in taxes. When the total value of all properties rises, tax rates typically decrease. What matters most is how your property's value changed compared to others. Here's what you can expect. Preliminary assessments will be mailed in February of 2026. If you agree with your assessment, no action is required. Informal reviews will be available from March through April. Property owners may submit documentation or schedule a review if they believe their assessment is incorrect. The month of May is when the formal grievance period begins, which is available whether or not you participated in an informal review. The final assessment roll is filed in July of 2026. When your preliminary assessment arrives, take time to review it and compare with recent sales in your neighborhood. If it looks accurate, no action is required. If you believe something was missed or incorrect, the informal review process is a helpful first step. Revaluation helps keep our system accurate, transparent, and aligned with real market conditions. It supports long-term stability, ensures consistency, and helps make sure taxes are distributed properly based on up-to-date property values, not outdated assessments. Thank you for your engagement as we move through this important process. For more information, visit perinton.gov.
All right. So the revaluation timeline, I'll be going over, I'll go to a little nutshell here, and we'll be going over it a little bit more at the end of the presentation. The property owners will be receiving their a notice of their new assessment this month during the month of February. The property owner at that time should take a look at the proposed assessment and compare what the proposed assessment is going to be against what other properties are selling for. There is a list of property sales listed on the town website. The sales that I've used is from, actually, I have to usually go backwards, from January of 2023 through to July, June of 24. So, so the owners should take a look at the sales that have occurred in their neighborhood, similar houses, similar size, and see if their assessments are aligned with what the properties are actually selling for. If they see that the assessment is aligning with that value, then you don't have to do anything else. In March of 26, I will be holding informal reviews when the property owners can either submit their request for a review either in writing, by email, or they can schedule an informal review during the month of March. It is important that you include your documentation of why you think your assessment is too high and supporting facts to support what you believe your assessment should be at instead of where it is. In May, May 1st, the tentative roll is filed, and on the fourth Tuesday of May, the Board of Assessment Review will meet, which starts the formal grievance process for your assessment. So I can adjust assessments anytime between now and about a little bit before April 30th, before the tentative roll is filed. After the tentative roll is filed on May 1st, I can no longer change the assessment on the roll. Any assessments done to the roll has to go through and be approved by the Board of Assessment Review. All right. All right, the assessment calendar. Now, the assessment calendar, I am going to start with the second arrow, March 1st of 2026, taxable status day. On taxable status day, the assessment will reflect the condition of the home and the property as of March 1st of 2026. It's called the taxable status date, and if you have a house on the property as of March 1st, and you'll be assessed and taxed for that house and pay taxes on that house as it sits on March 1st. If on March 2nd, something happens to that house, you move it, it burns down, it knocks down, and it goes from an approved property to a vacant property, you will still pay full taxes on the house because as of March 1st, it had a house on it, and that's the way it stood on March 1st. Vice versa of that, if you have a vacant piece of property on March 1st, you would be paying taxes on the vacant piece of property. And then you flew in, dropped in, whatever, a house on that property on March 2nd, you would, and lived in it, whatever, you would still pay taxes only on the vacant property. So,
I mean, what if the house is being built? I mean,
if the house is being built, we assign a partial assessment to the property in the state that the house is in at that time, whether it's 25%, 50%, 75%, all depends on what state of construction the building is in. So probably any questions should probably be done up at the podium. But thank you for that. That's all right. So the people at home can that are on Zoom can hear the question. And the question was what if the property or the home is in a partial state of construction and is not livable, or they had a fire, would be on the other side, that there would only be a partial assessment assigned for that year. Now, if we go back to valuation day, valuation date is the market value of the property as of July 1st of 2025. So it's July 1st of the previous year. So it's the market value of the property as of July 1st, 2025, using the condition of the property as it sits on March 1st of 2026. So the reason why the valuation date is always the year before is so the assessment office has a chance to review the sales and the inventory and the exemptions and all of that. So I know that's a little bit confusing, but it's the market value of the property the previous July in the condition it was at March 1st. Now, if for some reason the town goes through a huge appreciation, 50, 75% appreciation from in that 6 months, so it's worth a lot more on March 1st than it was on July 2nd, on July 1st the previous year. It doesn't matter. It's the value as it was on that valuation date on July 1st the year before. May 1st is when the tentative roll assessment roll is filed. And like I said, as of after March 1st, all assessment changes have to be made through the Board of Assessment Review. The Board of Assessment Review meets on the fourth Tuesday of May, which this year is May 26th, and it's the official start of the grievance formal assessment review process. The Board of Assessment Review this year, typically they will only meet on that one day. They have to meet 2 hours before 6 o'clock. They have to meet 2 hours after 6 o'clock. They typically will meet more, especially this year. We'll probably be having probably a total of 2 weeks of Board of Assessment Review for all the complaints we'll be receiving. But the important things to remember on that is if you think you want to file a complaint with the Board of Assessment Review, you have to do it on or before May 26th. After May 26th, we will not take for any more complaint applications. Now, it won't all be heard on that day or on that fourth Tuesday of May. It'll be heard. You'll get an appointment, and they'll be heard on an adjourned hearing later on. Then, after the Board of Assessment Review meets and makes their decisions, on July 1st, the final assessment roll is filed. The steps of revaluation underneath, we are on 7.5 right now. We've done all the field reviews of the proposed values, and we're going to be sending out the notifications of the preliminary values here really soon. The the assessment that you get in the mail on your assessment change notices, we refer to as the preliminary assessment. And once you go through the informal review, we'll send you what the decision of the informal review is, whether it changes or not. You'll be notified of it. When the tentative roll is filed on May 1st, that preliminary assessment becomes the tentative assessment. So what is my role as the assessor? Legally, the assessor is tasked with the discovery, listing, and valuation of all real property within an assessing unit for the purposes of taxation or special ad valorem levies for county, town, village, school, and special district purposes. And we also take real property tax exemptions as well. I swear 75% of our time in the office now is dealing with tax exemptions, while 25 or less are actually with the valuation of property. So what the assessor does do, he determines the assessed value of property. He tries to ensure that the assessments are equitable across the town. He updates assessments to reflect the current market conditions, maintains property records, which is the size, what's built on the property, style, square footage, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, the acreage, what exemptions you have. And if you're a farmer, then what soils you have on the property. We review assessment complaints during the grievance process. And of course, we apply eligible exemptions, tax exemptions for stars, seniors, veterans, disabled persons with limited income as well. What we don't do is we don't set the tax rate. We don't decide how much taxes the town collects. That's their job over there. Not to put you under the bus, but we do not control or cannot control the school or village or county taxes. We do not mail the tax bills, and we do not collect the taxes. Assessment history: Perinton went to full value at 100% assessment back in 2002. Last time all properties was individually reviewed was in 2018. Like was mentioned earlier in the video, in 2020, we tried to do a townwide reval, and probably many of you remember receiving my assessment change notice back in 2020. But with the pandemic, we had to pull our horns in and delay it. Since then, the assessments and or the market value of the properties have really taken off. Now, equalization rate. Equalization rate is a percentage set by New York State. And like in 2020, we were at 100% for the 25 assessment roll. We're at 57%. Equalization rate is a percentage set by New York State after they run it through their models at the state level. And it reflects at what level the current assessments are to the market value or the true market value of the property. If we're at 100%, it means we're on average, we're right on target. It's all average. I wish everybody could be at 100%, but it doesn't work that way. If we're less than 100%, it means the assessments are too low. They will not assign us an equalization rate over 100%. They used to when I got first in the business, but not anymore. So the equalization rate is used to equalize assessments across taxing jurisdiction. And I'll use the county tax bill for an example. Equalization rates in the towns within Monroe County range from 48% to 100%. Before the county tax levy is apportioned between the different towns, the taxable assessment of each town is equalized up to 100%. So they take the taxable assessment for the town and they divide it by the equalization rate. So if you're 100%, the two are the same. If you're at 50%, your taxable assessment will double. So then everybody is mathematically equalized at 100% across the county. The county budget is then apportioned between the different towns, and then the county tax rate for each town is individually calculated based on what portion of the total tax levy, county tax levy, is assigned to that town, and using the equalization rate. The same thing is done with the school districts, except for Fairport. Fairport is, I don't know if it's the only one, but they are one of the lucky ones that all the Fairport School District is located within the town of Perinton. So whatever the taxable assessment is on the roll is what they use to calculate their tax rate and levy their taxes on. So when assessments are not adjusted on a regular basis, they stop reflecting the actual market value due to market changes. Within the same neighborhood, within your neighborhood that you live in, one style of home might increase faster than another style of home. Between neighborhoods, your neighborhood and the one across town, one neighborhood might increase faster than the other. Between property types, commercial properties might appreciate or depreciate differently than residential property or different than industrial property. Vacant land, commercial vacant land, and residential vacant land all vary differently. Again, the whole pie is that was reviewed in the video is really what we're looking at, trying to divvy up that pie so that everybody pays their fair share of the taxes. Now, in this example, is just an example of the inequitable assessments. As you see, property A and property B in 2019 each had a full market value of $200,000. The assessed value for both property A and B in 2018 also was at $200,000. So they're both paying their fair share of taxes. In 2025, property A, actually their market value increased up to $350,000, but property B, the market value only increased up to $300,000. But the assessed value hasn't changed from $200,000. So they're still paying the same amount of taxes based on the assessment that they had back in 2018. But if everything was equitable, property A would actually be paying a little bit more of the taxes, and property B would be paying a little bit less. So right now, property B is actually subsidizing the taxes of property A. So again, market values change over time. Assessments don't until a town-wide reval is completed. Now, with a small caveat on that is an assessment will be adjusted if there is a structural change to a property. If you have put on an addition, if you finish a basement, if you put in a pool, if you buy a piece of property next door and you combine it with your property, I will adjust the assessment accordingly. but the assessment is only adjusted by what value that addition added to your property. We don't say, well, now it's worth 350,000, and even though you put on the addition and we raise it to 350,000, that addition might only add 20,000. So that's what it will only be increased by. And that increase, well, we also have to multiply times the equalization rate before we put it on to your property. So townwide revaluation, what is being done this year? Well, as we said, we're going to be going through a townwide reval, bringing all the assessments up to 100% of full market value. Is this usually done by towns? And the answer is yes. Here is a list of Monroe County municipalities who have recently completed revaluation projects over the last couple of years. You may have remembered the city of Rochester and how they were on the news for quite a bit for their reval. Gates did theirs last year. The map to the side, you might not be able to read from back there. The green areas are municipalities who have reassessed since 2002. That's of 995 municipalities across the town. The green areas is 365 have done a reassessment since 2002, and that figures out to about 37% of the town. So revaluation is a community-wide review of all the properties values to make sure the assessments reflect today's real estate market and are applied fairly and consistently. So all properties will be reviewed from the smallest vacant property to the largest industrial property in the town. The assessment will look at recent properties of similar properties, similar sales of similar properties. The values will be adjusted based on the market changes and property differences. If one property has more square footage than the other, the assessment will be changed a little bit. The assessment will be adjusted for style, Cape Cod versus colonial versus ranch. Assessments will be set at the same standard for all properties. And it's important to note that revaluation, reassessment, update all mean the same thing. It means that we're going through reviewing all the properties and bringing them up to full value. So why does revaluations matter? As I said, property values change over time, and not all properties change at the same pace. Revaluations restores fairness by aligning assessments with current market values so that each property owner pays their proportional share of property taxes. Fair and equitable distribution of the taxes is what we are trying to achieve. And equity, of course, is the goal. So if we assess all properties at the same time, at the same market standard, similar properties should pay similar taxes, and assessments will be uniform as required by New York State law. Now, years ago when I first got into business, well, actually it was just a little bit before I got into business, New York State did pass a law stating that all properties across New York State had to be assessed at 100% of full market value. Smaller towns started complaining, saying that, well, we don't have inventory. We haven't collected inventory in years. So we're going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, increase our budget by 2 or 3 times to meet this mandate of being at 100%. So New York State legislators changed that law and said that all the towns have to be, or the town has to be assessed at a uniform percentage of full value. Now that uniform percentage of full value can be whatever percentage the town wants to be at. We like to be, towns that have gone through reval, we like to be at 100% of full value. I did a little research on the web, and what, of course, everything on the web is true, but there is one town, I won't give it away, there is one town, one municipality, that their equalization rate is 0.13%. And I looked at what their levy was and what their tax rate was, and if they were collecting the same amount of taxes that we were at that level, their tax rate would be over $10,000 a thousand. So it's all relative of where your assessments are. So market value. The textbook definition out of most appraisal books is the most probable price in terms of money which a property should bring in a competitive and open market under all conditions required for a fair sale, the willing buyer and willing seller each acting prudently and knowledgeably, and assuming the price is not affected by undue stimulus or duress to either party. So you're moving from this town to this town, and you have to own a property to get your kids in school by a certain date. So you might pay a little bit more for a property than you normally would. Or you've inherited a house from somebody. Now you have two houses that you have to pay two taxes on, or maybe you have two mortgages because you have a house. You might be willing to sell that second house or that one you inherited for less than what you normally would if you had placed it on the open market and exposed it to the open market. But in short, the short definition is the market value is what a property would likely sell for in today's open market. So of course, property value changes over time, as I've pointed out, and the market value is determined between the buyer and seller, not the town. So I mentioned the 100% of full market value, and the biggest reason why I like assessments at 100% of full market value is that it makes the property assessments clear, transparent, and easy to understand by the citizens. It makes my life easier in the office. And for doing a townwide reval, the state offers maintenance aid in the form of $5 per parcel. If you file a cyclical reassessment program with them and you go through the reval, they will reimburse up to $5 a parcel to the town. Now, that typically isn't $5 a parcel because there's only a certain amount of money put into that pot each year, and it all depends on how many municipalities are doing it reval. So it depends on how many municipalities and how many parcels they have to divide it up between. Typically, it's between $2.50 and $2.75 a parcel. Last year was almost $5, but oh well. All right, so what drives market value? As you see, there's a whole host of things that drive market value. And this is only a partial list. You could probably come up with another 3 slides of what drives market value. Of course, property style, property size, lot size, neighborhood probably would be the key characteristics. Real estate likes to say location, location, location determines value, and I can't argue with that. Through my 40 years, there is one item that I am unable to quantify, and that is the human factor. I cannot figure out why I have two houses, this one over here and this one over here. Looking at them, they should sell for the same. But this one over here sells for more than this one over here. And usually it boils down just to the human factor. They like the chandelier in the living room. They like the room layout. There's a whole different reasons, but of course, and that's one thing we can never quantify is the human factor. And of course, one spouse might like the house, and the other spouse has to buy it for the other spouse. But that's not sexist or anything about it, because there's more women. Women are making more, just as much money as men now, so it doesn't matter who's paying the bills. Hope I didn't get myself in trouble there. All right. So market value is used in a revaluation by reviewing sales that have occurred. The differences between the properties are considered. Market value is established using consistent standards, and assessments are updated so values are fair and uniform in the community. Now, the statement on the right-hand side, the town doesn't set a market value. The market value is determined by the buyers and the seller in the real estate market. We just react to the selling prices in the town. The assessments are set reactively and not proactively. We don't say, well, this house is going to sell for 5% more next year. We say the property is going to sell actually the year before on July 1st of the previous year. So it's all historic. Now, the favorite topic and the elephant in the room. And I will concede one point right here is we are all aware that taxes never remain the same. There's always an increase, almost always, can't say always, an increase in your taxes. There is the 2% tax levy, or maximum of 2% increase in the tax levy that was adopted by Cuomo, I believe, quite a few years ago. And as far as I know, the town of Perinton has never gone over that 2%. And as far as I know, the Fairport School District has never gone over that 2%. So in the examples, we're saying that the tax levy is remaining the same. Well, we know that it's not probably going to remain the same. We know that it's probably going to increase. But for the ease of the presentation, we're saying that the tax levy is remaining the same. So the revaluation changes how property values are measured, not how much tax is raised. As I said, the revaluation changes the property value or changes the assessment for each of the properties. The total amount of taxes you pay depends on the tax levy, which is determined by the budgets approved by the town, village, county, and school. Each government sets its own budget and its own tax levy. Revaluation doesn't automatically raise taxes. So who controls the tax levy? Well, for the town, the budget and tax levy is set by the town board. And that levy is applied against the entire town, including inside the village. The village passes, the village board of trustees passes or adopts their budget, and their tax levy is applied to the properties only inside the village. The county, the budget is adopted by or set by the county legislature, and is applied against all properties within the county. The school board sets the school budget. Each school separately. In Fairport, we have 5 districts. We have Fairport, Penfield, East Rochester, Pittsford, and Victor. Each of those tax rates or each of those levies are applied against each individual school. So you'd only be paying the taxes on the school district in which you live. I guess we got another video.
Let's start off by creating a small town with only 3 houses. Each house is different and has a different value. The first house has a market value of $200,000. The second house has a value of $250,000. And the third house is valued at $350,000. The town supplies services, and the money to pay for these services is recovered through property taxation. Let's imagine that the town needs to collect $1,200 to pay for these services. To calculate the tax rate, you divide the cost to provide services by the total assessed value of all the properties in the town. This establishes a tax rate. Now, to calculate how much tax each home pays, we multiply the tax rate by the assessment. As you can see, the first house would pay $300. The second home would pay $375, and the highest value home would pay $525. Let's summarize what we've covered so far. 1. Assessment places a market value on each property. 2. The total assessment is used to calculate the tax rate. 3. Taxes pay for the cost of town services like roads, sidewalks, snow removal, parks, and more. Now, let's imagine that another year has passed and that property values have increased by 4%. Let's also imagine the cost of providing services has remained the same, $1,200. The tax rate is still the cost of services divided by the total assessment. The result is that all owners still pay the same taxes as before because the cost of services has not changed. Let's summarize again. 1. An assessment increase does not necessarily mean more taxes are collected. 2. If all assessments go up equally, everyone pays the same amount as long as the cost of services stays the same. Now let's imagine another year has passed and values did not increase at the same rate. Home 1 remained at the same value, $208,000. Home 2 increased by 1% to $262,600. And Home 3 increased 3% to $374,920. The cost of services stayed the same at $1,200. $1,200 divided by the total new assessment equals the new tax rate. The net effect of the new values is House 1 pays less tax. The house that went up 3% pays a higher proportionate share. If all assessments do not go up equally, there is a redistribution of the tax. However, the total tax collected remains the same. Now, what happens if the cost of services goes up? Let's do the math. Services now cost $1,400. The result is a different tax rate. As you can see, an increase in service costs result in a tax increase. But suppose the cost of services went up and one more home was built in town, valued at $300,000. The new total assessment is now $1,145,520. This results in a new tax rate. The new house now helps pay for the cost of services, and the result is that everybody pays less. This is a hypothetical representation of how the process works. The key points are: 1. Total assessment value is used to calculate tax rates. 2. An increase in property value does not always mean an increase in taxes. 3. New construction helps pay the overall tax burden. 4. Taxes are based on the cost of providing services that citizens want and need. And this explains how revaluation and taxation work. To help residents understand Perinton's townwide revaluation, we're offering both public information sessions and office hours. Public information sessions are large group presentations that explain the entire revaluation process, why it's happening, what to expect, key dates, and next steps. These sessions are open to everyone and no registration is required. All public information sessions will also be available as a Zoom webinar. Details on how to join the Zoom sessions are available on the town's website at perinton.gov. We're also hosting office hours, which are smaller, informal opportunities to speak with town officials individually or in small groups. These conversations are more personal and allow for specific questions. For more details and access to resources, forms, and the registration links for office hours, please visit perinton.gov.
All right. So revaluation doesn't automatically raise taxes. The assessment will change, will go up, but the town and the school and the county budget will remain relatively the same. So if your assessment goes way up and your budget stays down here someplace, your tax rate will actually drop because we have more tax base to collect the same amount of dollars. So the town budget will remain the same or about the same. The assessed values will change and the tax rate itself will be adjusted accordingly. So this is just three examples, strictly examples of three scenarios that could happen. In example one, your assessment could increase, but your tax bill could decrease. So in each of the examples last year the figures are all the same. Your assessment was $100,000. The total value of the town was 50 million. Tax levy was 1.5 million. The tax rate of $30 per thousand, and so your tax bill was 3,000. In this first example, your assessment increases by 5% up to 105%. The total value of the town increases by 8% up to 54 million. Tax levy remained the same, so after the math, the tax rate is decreased by 27 down to $27.78 per thousand. So even though your assessment increased by 5%, your tax bill will actually decrease by a little bit. In example two, your tax bill remains the same. Your assessment increases by 5%. The town value or the town assessment increases by 8% up to the same, up to 500 for 54 million. The tax levy increases up to $1.542 million. The tax rate after the math is 28.57. So even though your assessment increased and the budget increased, your tax bill actually will remain the same. In the third example, your assessment will decrease, but your tax bill will increase. Your assessment will decrease down to 95,000 from 100,000. The taxable value of the town decreases by 5%, and the tax levy remains the same as 1.52 million. The tax rate at that point is $32.48, so your taxes actually will increase. So those are examples. There are so many moving parts to what your final taxes will be that hopefully that gives you a little bit of understanding of we can't really nail on what your taxes, exactly what your taxes are going to be. Now, this is another scenario. Now, in last year, you'll see that the total amount of tax levy was $10,010,832. Now, if you look on your tax bill for your county taxes and you live outside the village, that's the value that's being that's the value of the levy on the county and town tax bill outside the village. Divided by the taxable assessment. Now, that is the taxable assessment. That doesn't appear on your tax bill, but that is the taxable assessment that was used. Now, if I divide the levy by the assessment, it comes up to $2.32 per thousand. Now, the 232, you will not see that on your tax bill because the taxes are not spread evenly. Well, they're spread differently in the village, inside the village and outside the village, depending on whether where town services are, whether they are only outside the village or the inside the village. So I couldn't get it exact to what appears on your bill. So with your assessed value, with an assessed value of 280,000 and tax rate of $2.32 per thousand, the total town tax bill is $649. Now, say the assessment double with the reval. Town tax levy remains the same. The town assessment goes to 8.66 million, actually 8.6 billion. The tax rate itself goes down to $1.16. Levy stayed the same, taxable assessment doubled. That means your tax rate is cut in half. So your assessment doubles from 280 to 560, but we use the 116 per thousand, and it's covered up there. We're trying to hide it, Scott. But but $649. So so as your taxable value increases and the budget remains about the same, you've got more taxes or more tax base to collect the same tax dollars on or near the same tax dollars. So the amount of the taxes that go up is not going to be as significant. All right, what to expect? So because the continued market growth from the last reval in 2018 and the 2005 assessment reflects 57% of today's market value, and looking at values or looking at the equalization rate for the 26 roll that we're working on now, if we don't go through a reval, I expect that to go from 57% down to 53%. So that's saying that the assessments are about half of what on average of what the property is selling for. So most assessments are going to increase, and most assessments, the average increase is probably going to double your assessment. But remember, as assessments go up, tax rates come down. So just preliminary statistics. Again, the village average increase is 102%, median of 99%. Town outside the village, average of 96%, median of 95%. That's an overall average of 97, median of 96. So, yes, the assessments are going to go way up. But we haven't done a reval since 2018. Now, on the bottom here, assuming that no changes to your tax exemptions, you don't lose a senior exemption, you don't lose a veterans exemption, you don't lose your star exemption because of income, and your assessment increase is close to the average increase across the town, and the tax levy, of course, remains the same, the amount of the taxes that you pay will stay level. There probably is going to be that little bit of a change for that normal increase that we all see in the budgets. If your percentage of change in your assessment is over the average, yes, I'm sorry, but you all will see an increase in your taxes. If your percentage is under what the average is, then your taxes will stay the same or actually will go down. Now, I will be on my the assessment change notices. I will be sending out. We used to call them impact notices. Since I'm changing the equalization, or since our equalization rate is under 85%, I have to send out what they call the impact notices or assessment change notices. What it does is we'll take your last year's taxes and state what your last year's taxes were with your old assessment. The state will then take a look at what the total new assessments were, using the new assessments to collect the same tax budget or the tax levy, and will calculate a fictitious tax rate. And that fictitious tax rate is then multiplied times your new assessment, and will estimate what your taxes would have been last year, or would be with your new assessment and the old tax levy. And that will indicate to you whether your taxes will go up, down, or remain about the same. So the bottom line is property values in Perinton have changed significantly since 2018. We're trying to equalize everybody's assessments across the boards to today's market value. The reval does not set tax rates. It does not increase budgets or tax levies, and it does not automatically equal an automatic tax increase. About the most important part of the whole slide is under what matters, the third bullet under what matters. What matters the most is, does your preliminary assessment represent the market value of your property? If it does, your assessment is where it should be. If it's too high, then you should go to the next step and ask for an informal review. If it's too low, I don't want to hear from you. So, unless you're selling your house, I have been requested in the past to raise a person's assessment because they're selling the house. So the informal review is an opportunity for the owner to share information with the town assessment office. Then when you don't believe we don't have all the information. You have a pet that is totally torn up the inside of your house, and so you've got $100,000 worth of repairs. You have a big leak in your roof that you have $100,000 repair. We don't know about that. So what you would want to do is you would want to prepare for the informal review on the bottom by gathering recent sales. If you've listed your property for sale, take photos. If you have a recent appraisal that wasn't done for a mortgage transaction, bring that in, or document, like I said, the property conditions. You can review, or you can request the informal review either by mail, by email, and the 2026 update at perinton.gov, or you can do an in-person appointment. All the in-person appointments will be done in March, and it'll just be you have 10 minutes to state your case, bring in your papers, state your case, and then the hearing officer will make a decision and will pass that on to me. So this is the timeline. We've pretty much gone over it. We're in February now, public information meeting where we are, and the assessment disclosure notices will be sent shortly. If you want, we will be holding smaller office hour meetings. First one is tomorrow at 5 o'clock in 208, which I believe is that way. Oh, that way. or 4, whatever, in this area, anyhow. So that's available. I'm going to have another session like this next Tuesday at 6 o'clock right here in the same room. So I guess the last thing I have to say is if you haven't signed up for an exemption that you may be qualified for, there is the senior citizens exemption, which you have to admit to being over 65 years of age, and you have to be below $58,400 for anything off of county taxes and under $37,400 for anything off of town and school taxes. Now that is through a formula, which if you think you qualify, either give me a call at the office or come in, bring your tax forms in, and we'll take a look at that. Persons with disability and limited income, those are the same limits, basically the same limits. I don't have a couple on off over my head, but I know the town and the school were at the same limits. Veterans exemption, you have to be honorably discharged from the United States Armed Services. I did have somebody come in, wanted an exemption, who was from the 3rd Panzer Division, and I had to deny him. Your DD 214 is required for the veterans exemption. The volunteer firefighter and ambulance worker, if you're a member of the fire department or ambulance and you have more than 2 years of service members, you could qualify for that. The school tax relief used to be all administered in my office. It has now been taken over by the state. If you have a basic star exemption on your bill right now and you're aging in, or your income is coming within the maximum limits, the state will automatically tell me to change you from a basic to the enhanced. You do not have to come any longer to apply for your basic or for your star exemption any longer. Senior citizen, all the exemptions except for the star have to be applied in my office prior to March 1st, that taxable status day. More information can be found on perinton.gov or the New York State website at the bottom. List of residential sales since March 1st of 2023 and commercial sales since January 1st, I'm sorry, January 1st of 2020 are available on the Perinton website. You can also get more sales on the county website as well. That's all I have to say right now.
Thank you, Wayne. So this is going to open a start of our Q&A session. Before we begin the question and comment portion, I'd like to remind everyone of how the process will work. We'll start by taking in-person questions and comments here in the room. After that, we'll move to participants joining us on Zoom. If you're in the room and you have a question or a comment, please form an orderly line at the podium up front here. This setup provides audio for our video recording as well as for our Zoom participants so they can hear you as well. Please refrain from comments or questions until you are at the podium using the microphone. As a reminder, please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and brief so we can hear from as many people as possible. Please state your name and your address first before your questions or comments. And with that, we'll begin with our first in-person question, if anyone has anything. Fantastic.
I'll start things off here. Wayne, thank you very much. The information was very helpful. It provides the kind of insight I was looking for. You mentioned earlier that the equalization rate currently is 57%, something like that. I realize it's set by New York State, but do you have any insight on how that's calculated and what happens to our 100% next year, I guess?
Yeah. Well, the equalization rate there's 4 parts to the equalization rate. There's residential, there's vacant, there's commercial, and then there's utilities. So, of course, Perinton is heavily residential. So it's mainly driven by the residential portion of the property. And they will look at what the properties are selling for in comparison to the assessment. And it's just an easy division of the sale price, the assessment divided by the sale price, and it'll come up with a percentage. For the commercial, since we haven't done an update since 2018, the state actually 2 or 3 years ago, came out and did their own study of commercial property. And they determined that the commercial property was only assessed at 40% of what they think the properties would sell for. So then you have the vacant land again. They will look at look at their own land tables and what the properties are selling for. So it's a combination of all those, and they blend them together. That's the sales side of it. They also have what they call their gamma model, or their computer assisted mass appraisal module. Right, Donna? So that is a quandary to all of the assessors and how that exactly works. I don't even know if the state can explain how it works, but it does its calculations and spits out where the town is currently assessing at. So the one good thing about it is that the state has opened that up and has become more user-friendly with the assessors, and will take the assessors' input into what their level of assessment is. If we come up with like this last year, I came up with a level of assessment of 57%. And if the state agrees with that, they'll set the equalization rate of 57%. If they don't agree with that, then they'll set it at what they believe it to be. The one bad thing about the market now is that it's moving so fast that we only may be at 100% for 1 year, because the state will take a look at the properties that have sold and their model, and they will trend those sales ahead a certain percentage. This last year, or for the sales from July of 23 to June of 24, they have trended ahead 8%. So if their calculations and my calculations come in between 95 and 105, and I've filed a cyclical reassessment program documentation, they'll give me 100% equalization rate. If the sales keep on going the way they are, we might be back down to 94% next year. But we will not be at 57. So, a long drawn out answer. Thank you. Anybody else?
I will just say, excellent presentation. Thank you. Very informative.
Introduce yourself, please.
Oh, I do apologize. So my name is Jeremy Nardone. I am the Assistant Superintendent for Business over at Fairport Schools. Oh, no, this is fine. And we get this question a lot. What is the reassessments going to do with our taxes? And the one answer that we can definitely say is we don't know. I love the way you put it, excuse me, in the presentation. It's all about fair and equitable. If we're at 57% equalization rate right now, which we are, that means homes are undervalued by 43%. With the new shift, and when assessments are brought up to 100%, if your assessment goes up more than 43%, your tax bill will decrease. If it goes up less than 43%, it will increase. So it's just one of those things we don't know until it's all said and done. But it was an excellent presentation. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Have anybody raising their hand at home?
All right. If that concludes our in-room comments, we will move on to questions and Q&A from Zoom participants. If you're joining us on Zoom and have questions, please use the Q&A chat button on the bottom banner of your screen. I will read your question aloud to the room in the order that they were received, and Wayne will provide the responses. Up first, Michael asked, doesn't home condition and interior decor play a major role in the selling price?
The interior condition does, if there's been a lot of deferred maintenance of the home, either inside or out, it does. That is why we're conducting the informal assessment reviews, so that people can bring in pictures of the inside of their home. We're not, as assessors, we're allowed to go up to the front door and knock on the front door just like any salesman is. But we are not given any right of entry into a property, so we don't know what the inside of the property looks like. So if the interior it has deferred maintenance, and you want to bring in or send in pictures of that deferred maintenance, you are more than welcome to do that, along with a note requesting the informal review. Now, decor, I can't say that's going to affect the market value. Everybody has their own taste, and wallpaper and coat of paint does a lot.
Great, thank you. Another question from an anonymous attendee. If building a new house, how do we get a range of what the taxes will be once moved in, and it's assessed ahead of time to determine what the affordability is before we make the commitment?
If you want an estimate of what your assessment and possible taxes are going to be, all you would need to do is to send the assessment office a email stating where the house is going to be built, the square footage, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, the size of the lot, whether there's going to be a finished basement, whether there's going to be a pool, all the amenities to the home. And then we will be able to give you an estimate or a range of at least what the assessments are going to be, and what the potential taxes will be.
Thank you. Another question from another participant. Will we have access to assessments of properties to evaluate fairness of our own assessment?
After the impact notices are off, after the assessment change notices are mailed, and I will be posting on the town website a list of all, well, actually it'll be the street index, street cross-reference, which will have the streets listed in alphabetical order, and it will have what the proposed assessments for each of the homes on your street are going to be. So I think you could make a determination from there of how your house compares to your neighbor and across the street.
Thank you. We'll give it another 10, 15 seconds to see if anyone online has any more questions.
While we're waiting for that, this is just a breakdown of the town. In 2025, the town had a total of 18,214 tax parcels. The village had the 2,206, and outside the village was 16,008. Over on the right-hand side is a breakdown of percentages by the property class, residential being about 78%. And like I said, that's why I said earlier that Perinton is very heavy residential, while commercial and industrial only is about 11%. As you will notice, the wholly exempt all the way at the bottom is only about 7% of the town. That would be your churches, your veterans, stuff like that, since my mind went blank. So we're not very heavy and wholly exempt. As you go up north, like in St. Lawrence County, you're looking at what is it, Donna? 50% of your whole town is tax exempt, and the rest rest of the town has to make up for it.
Great. No other questions or comments have come in. If you have any final remarks. Oh, I'm sorry. We have another question in the room here.
My name is Margaret. I live in the village. When did you say that that list of the proposed of all the streets would go on? I didn't catch that one, when they would be listed on the website.
When it will be available? It'll probably be in the third week of February,
Okay.
anyhow.
Thank you.
Jen, do you want to make any comments?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. Well, you guys, thank you very much for coming in and for listening. If you walk away with two things, just knowing that the amount of money the town is asking for is not increasing. So that's just the one thing when you see folks say, oh my gosh, they're going to get more money. There's no more money coming to the town. It's the same amount. So if someone's taxes are going to go up, that means someone else's have to go down. It's just the math. That's how that works. And so just being mindful of that when we think about the revaluation really, I think helps. If you walk away with one thing. Our next info session is on the 10th. I will have office hours. Wayne will have office hours. You can always just come to my office anytime, even if there's not office hours and you have questions. There is an open door policy, so please stop in if you want to. And the question of why now, why are we doing this now, that I've gotten a lot from folks is telling folks who are, undervalued right now, it's a bad time to increase your taxes or increase your assessment for that. But for all the folks who are currently paying more than their fair share, there's just as many of those people. So if you have built a house or you have recently sold your house, you may be carrying everybody else who is underpaying. So we needed to make it fair for everybody else. And so that's really important as well. But thank you very much, you guys, for coming out. And if no one has any other questions, we can wrap up. So thank you. Oh, and one last, again, final thank you to Scott Diamond and Heather Moffett for putting this presentation together. It was really so professionally done. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. This concludes our first revaluation public information session. The recorded video from tonight will be available on the town's YouTube channel. If you'd like to view it again, thank you for taking the time to be here tonight and engaging with us.